go.
Okay.
Okay.
It's nice to meet you.
Nice
I'm
to meet
Erica.
you. I'm Sylvanus.
Dennis.
Nice to meet you. Okay, so let's just get started. I'm just going to ask you a few questions, probably 5 or 6 questions here. I just wanted to ask first, just if you can just describe the last time that you were energetic at work.
I usually tend to always be energetic. It's part of my personality. I love learning, love working. Probably the most notable time last Friday. I'm working on a brand new process at work. Like I joined a new team and we're doing a new file report, and it's the first time I ran through the entire report by myself. And then I gotta go. I had to go respond to emails and the people had sent us in the report saying, "Hey, can you explain this new process to me, or can you explain where this figure came from?" And I actually got to answer them, just me, not like going through my manager. So that was extremely exciting.
Huh, that's always rewarding to know what you're doing.
It is,
Sure.
especially when you can answer the email and say, or when they call, I can't get back to you, let me go talk to my manager and then I'll call you back. So it was very exciting.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So, in related to that, can you give me an example of a situation where you persisted in the face of failure?
Sure. Okay. So recently I had an internship this summer with Goldman Sachs. In the internship, besides our daily work, we had a big intern project with just our controller interns on bank loans. For the project, we had to do an overall general presentation and then break up into our teams. Like, what does your team do with bank loans? What does your team do, since we were all on different teams? I was on the bank and liquidity team, and I was very excited. I had tons of work. I made my 4 PowerPoint slides. I knew it inside and out. We went to my managers, and they're like, "This is wrong. We don't like redoing. Redo it." And it was very interesting, so I was like, "Well, how do you want me to redo it? The information's accurate." And they were disagreeing with me on the information was right or not, and they don't work on my team. So it was very frustrating. Went through, got all new information, did it again. It's still not right. We don't like what you do. After that point, I sat down with both my manager that I was working with, on the project, who was on my team, and the manager who was overseeing our intern project, and said, "Okay, we're all in the same room now. Help me. What do you want? What can I actually contribute to the project? What can my manager help me with?" And we all worked together. We just had to tweak both of what we actually did and what they wanted to see. So it's interesting. It's kind of hard to be told you're wrong like 4 times, but they were just looking for different stuff that we sort of deal with, but not fully deal with. So we just had to find a middle ground.
Yeah, and that can be kind of difficult too, because there's a lot of diverse things that you do in the workplace, especially
Absolutely.
with different managers and their styles and things like that.
And not just that, the one manager was on a certain asset group, like a business, and he was expecting that stuff to transition into what I do, and they're totally separate. Like they don't have any correlation. They're not, and he was expecting that. So it was just getting both of our minds wrapped around, this is what you do, this is what I do. There's some similarities, but they're not all the same.
Yeah.
So it's good. It's hard arguing with your managers for the first couple weeks, but it worked out.
That's true. It's just that you're a quick learner.
A little bit.
Yeah. Do you have any other examples of where you showed yourself to be as a quick learner?
Sure. So it's probably the same team. Sorry to push Goldman Sachs a bit. It was a fun internship, most recent. On my team, we had me and a new hire. So I was the intern, and there was a new hire. We each given daily deliverables, and then we switched. So I was doing 2 reports a certain day. He was doing 2 reports a day. I got through a report, and not trying to get through it quick, just get the work done, say, "Here, I'm done." Actually understand the report, make sure everything was accurate, that I was tying out this report to other reports. And I finished it, and I learned the process far quicker than he did. And after that, when we switched, instead of having the manager show him, they actually had me teach the new hire how to do it, which was pretty darn cool.
Yeah,
It's interesting when you have the internship teaching the full-time hire when the manager can do it.
Yeah.
So it was, and then his process, they didn't have the full-time teach me, they had the manager teach me. So it's pretty, it is, I mean, it's a big complex process, and being able to jump in and kind of engage the material and integrate it, it was pretty empowering. But my manager spoke to me saying, "Wow, you caught on really fast, I'm happy you learned this," and then they pushed me into more things with that report. So it was kind of neat, it's a good feeling.
That's very, very impressive. So would you describe yourself as someone that pays attention to detail a lot, or is a perfectionist?
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's a fun being an accounting major. You always do that.
Yeah.
Detail oriented is the game.
Has that ever slowed you down in the past, being a perfectionist?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. In what ways?
So I try not to be always you have to realize things aren't going to always be perfect. It's not how the world works. You can't always do that. Otherwise, you're working every second of the day and you never have a single second for anything. With one of the reports I worked on over the summer, we had to tie different files together. So this file will pull into this report, and the numbers have to match, right? And so there's all different line items, different subgroups, different groups within the subgroups. And you can go through and see high level, the overall numbers tie back. This total matches this total. And I was given some guidance that I should be doing this, but probably not explicit. You have to check every line item, but me being the fun person I am, I actually went through every single line item on like 1,000, couple thousand Excel things to make sure the numbers tied up. So it's probably tedious and probably not what I want to do, but it was my very first time doing it, and I wanted to make sure the numbers were absolutely perfect. It was a huge time waste, but I know not what to do the next project. But
Well, at least that was at least helping you.
it was, but
Just not in the most
when
time-effective
I had
way.
lots of other things to do, it probably wasn't the smartest, but I wanted to make sure it was perfect. But
Good.
I have since learned not to do that. And there's a fun little sum function in Excel. You can just highlight tabs and it'll tell you the number instead of going through every single one. So it worked out.
Okay. Great. So it seems like you're very detail oriented. I too am also an accountant major, and detail is very important in that. Just one transposition and you're
Absolutely, it all goes out the window.
exactly.
Sorry to interrupt. Do you feel yourself as a perfectionist? Are you that way too? In some cases, not all, of course.
I would consider myself as a perfectionist
Yeah.
in some ways, but I try to underlook that.
Yeah, no, it's difficult sometimes.
So-
The details, you get so focused and bogged down in details, you don't see the big picture sometimes.
Right, exactly.
Mhm.
So overall, as in working in an environment, working in with teams, how have you tried to focus on the big picture and not getting lost in the details?
So it's hard at first, right? It depends how long you've been doing this same type of work in school and classes. Probably the most interesting example, so over my summer I had multiple different reports, different teams I was working on, one of which actually breaks up the interest income and interest expense for all our different businesses. And initially you just learn the big picture, right? You just know what drives it, what it looks like, and that's that. But after a time, I actually had people emailing saying, well, can you explain this number to me? And I had really no idea where it came from. Like, oh, this is sort of what it looks like, but I can't tell you how we got that number.
Right.
So it was a complete focus from, granularity to big picture, from big picture to granularity. So you just have to kind of tie the two together while not knowing both at the same time.
Mhm.
But it's really hard when you think you know a process and they ask you a very pointed question and you're like, I can't tell you where that figure comes from. So I think you have to know big picture first and then dive down into details. But it was a mental thing for me. I really just knew big picture, and then as soon as I got comfortable with the big picture, I'm like, okay, I'll understand the details. And then once I understood the details, I was like, heck with the big picture. So just kind of using both at the same time, where I was focusing one than the other.
Which is very important because in this field, obviously, you're not going to know every single
Absolutely.
portion of the accounting process of
Mhm.
how it works in every company. That's why we have teams.
Yep.
And that's why it's really important that we have everyone know exactly like the overall goal.
Yeah.
And if you don't know the exact answer, to know where you can go backtrack to find the answer through the
Yeah.
big picture.
No, absolutely, and it was very interesting. My team I worked on, it was just me and my manager from New York, so we just had like phone conversations all day, and it was probably me bothering her for the better portion of the day. But it was interesting going back, because if I didn't know it, she would know everything.
Yeah.
So it was like a chain, like she knows everything, I know, I'm trying to get there. It was pretty interesting though, it worked out
That's
well.
good. Have you ever had a time where you took on too much?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah?
So that was part of the internship. I was split on teams, right? So I was over GS Liquidity, GS Bank, and then I was starting to learn NIM, which is what I'm working on now. And it's great, but they all say, okay, you're going to do this. All these are what you're supposed to do today, which is great. I would love to stay as long as it takes to get the work done. That's my personality. I mean, that's how most people, I think, seem to be that actually care about their work. And I could do that, but they won't let me because they want the report done by a certain time so the other regions can get on their reports, yes? So when they say, okay, that's great, you have other things, but this has to go out at 5, this has to go out at 3, make your time work. And that's great, you can't do it all at once, you don't have enough hours in the day within that time. So in that situation, it was more just speaking to my manager saying, hey, I'm here, I'm on these different teams, this is what I feel comfortable doing, this is what I want to get done, and I want to make sure everyone else is happy too, but I'll do this whole process in the morning, I'll get like 3/4 of this done then and I'll finish this. So I was getting most of the work done, they would maybe have to finish it for me because I had to move on to the next project. And in my role as an intern, they understood that. They said, oh, we realize your time is split, you're on different teams. So it was just pretty much communicating and escalating to my managers, and they understood no one could do all of it in the given
Yeah.
time. So it worked out, it was just pretty much communication.
Sometimes the best thing to do is just admit that you can't take on too much.
Yeah, if they would let me stay till 9 o'clock,
Yeah.
and they said no, then it would have been fine, but they wanted it out by 5, so
Great.
it
Well,
worked out well.
yeah, thank you so much for sharing these experiences with me.
Right.
It was really nice meeting with you, and
Nice to meet you.
I'm sure that you'll do well in the next round of interviews too.
Thank you, I look forward to hearing from you.
Thank you.
Thank
Nice
you,
to meet
it was nice to meet you again.
And I think that is it.
We didn't dress appropriately, and I usually wear like business clothes
It
every day
didn't-
too.
It didn't say.
Yeah, I
so.
know, and it's just. Interesting. Okay, open door. Well, thank you for your
Cool.
time. Was it?
Yeah.
Did I talk too fast?
No.
That seems to be my problem.
No. I'm from Becky, so I usually
So am I, from
Really?
Maryland.
Me? That's where I'm from too.
Really? What part?
2000.
Time survey. As soon as you're done with this, you can take off.
Cool beans.
I'll take it in here in a second.
Yeah.
Silver Spring.
Silver Springs, Maryland?
Yep.
Yeah, I don't know why, but people always tell me that I talk too fast, and so
Oh no, I
ever since
love
I
it.
moved out here, they're like, you need to talk slower, and so I've been
Ah, I
trying
think
to talk
I think it's